Steam Next Fest is here once again. I am in the reeds of another big video project, but time is indifferent, and the gaming release calendar marches onwards. I've been playing a bunch of demos for the summer festival season, and have some highlights to share. As always, no guarantee these demos will stay up after the demo festival ends, but let's get into the goodies. Truck-kun is supporting me from another world is an arcade driving game made by Strange Scaffold and published by Frosty Pop. In the game, a young go-getter of a lady has had to endure many hardships in her life, but after finally making promotion and turning her life around, she gets run over by a truck. A truck driven by our player character. But it's okay. She got transported to another world and became the hero of a fantasy realm. Now it's up to us to drive over more people and objects to send them to the other world to help her. Wait, that doesn't make any of that okay at all. That's just crimes on top of crimes. Oh god! Controlling Truck-kun is easy, carefree, and fast. There is a reasonably large city for you to drive around, with pedestrians and objects to hit aplenty. The trick is knowing what to run over with your magical extra-dimensional bumper at any given time. Running over people will spawn them as monsters for the hero to fight, and objects will load up the hero's special meter. Then, with a honk of the horn, all the creatures on the screen will be defeated, giving our hero stars which they need to progress. You can only fight up to 4 enemies at a time, and the special meter has a maximum 2, so you have to be pretty on it with playing this little game at the bottom of this larger chaotic game. This might be the closest we can get to an interactive experience of Subway Surfers being on one half of the screen to keep someone's attention. Although, frankly, I don't know how someone couldn't be memorized by how Truck-kun looks. It's so bright and poppy. It almost brushes away the messed up nature of the premise. I'm just playing around a Playmobil city, or someone's My Sims neighborhood. It definitely helps keep up the excitement and adrenaline the game is going for. Different parts of the city have distinct looks, which is helpful for knowing where you are at all times, and just makes cruising a joy. You go out for timed arcade missions and you need to complete challenges in the top right. These can be to just drive a certain way, break random objects, break specific objects, or to complete delivery missions. You're a delivery driver, right? Just because you're isekaiing people doesn't mean you don't have to pay rent. Each one you beat will be replaced by a new one. These can get you more time to keep going, or more stars for the hero to level up with. The timer ones are really enjoyable, because it can be fun just edging the countdown, and savouring every last second you can out of the automobile anarchy. Don't worry if you just want to cruise, because it looks like the full game will have a free roam mode, as well as a garage to customize your wheels. If you're wondering how the police are okay with you doing all of this, the answer is they're not. And so the longer you're Ubering people to the next dimension, the angrier and more aggressive they'll get. They can't kill you, I don't think, but they can be devils in how much they can slow you down. Fortunately, a nice side swipe will get you a side of bacon. And there's more around the city to keep you moving, like boost pads and ramps and power-ups to give you more time or the hero more power, and I just kept playing this because it's so much fun. Truck-kun is supporting me from another world, is a weird, weeaboo, crazy taxi wonder, and you should absolutely go play it. The full game is coming out on July 29th. You know, the premise kinda reminds me of Life Eater, the Lovecraftian serial killer game Strange Scaffold also made. This anime girl in my head telling me to run people over. She is real, right? Feed the Giants is a city builder survival god game by Oniric Tales Studio. In the game, you are struggling to pay your rent. Relatable. But you cut a deal with some giants who will gladly waive what you owe if you oversee a group of tiny children who live in the woods, helping them survive the night by keeping the fire burning, and most importantly, entertaining the desires of the giants so they don't get bored. That's less relatable? The whole game is wrapped up in a dark fairy tale aesthetic that ends up being quite arresting. Overseeing a group of wild children from above is one thing, but it's the disconcerting faces and expressions of these giants that really ended up unsettling me as I played. How you play is at least simple. There are children, and you need to give them a hand, gather resources to help them, make buildings to give them a place to sleep, or to help them gather materials. You can also pick children up to assign them to work that most needs doing. It's very easy to grasp, and that's a good thing, because actually surviving isn't. The terms of your rent being waived is to keep the fire burning, so a portion of your resources needs to go to feeding the flame. Darkness surrounds the campsite too, and you'll need to make light sources if you want to keep collecting materials, as it won't take long to use up what's in your immediate vicinity. You don't want to get caught in the rain, burning whatever scraps you have in a desperate attempt to keep those embers alight, and the rain will come. Having to survive it and keep the darkness back does give me some nice memories of Frostpunk, albeit on a different scale to that game. I don't want to oppress these children. The giants, however, do, because they are bored. The giants, who feel like the gods above God, will make tasks for you to complete, and it's up to you to fulfill them. Doing so will net you rewards to add to your stockpile. Failing the tasks will make the giants angry, and that will mean disaster, like heavier rain to fight against. You do not want to displease the giants. Each giant has a different personality. They will be making constant commentary as you play, judging you on whatever you're doing, and this will be reflected in their tasks. One seemed focused on the trees, and either warned me to grow more trees or avoid cutting them down. Another looked at food, and I had to manage what my children were eating. The third giant, though, is a sadist, and wanted me to do bad things, like using the children as fuel for the fire. There is sometimes wiggle room in these tasks. One time the cruel giant said that the children can only eat their waste. What I ended up doing, however, was stealing away their food out of reach. I didn't feed them their poop or anything. I just waited for the task timer to complete, hoping that everyone would make it to the end. There were a lot of cries of hunger, but all the kids made it. This isn't Sallow. This is a very dark game, and one that is trying to push your buttons by how it's pressuring you into doing bad things, or hindering yourself with the greater survival of your camp being threatened. It's got the kind of vibe of immature children torturing insects or small animals, and you're the runt of the group that everyone is bullying to do the horrific things. Don't worry if you don't make it on your first playthrough. The game is aware it can be cruel and difficult. Between your attempts, you can take a small amount of items with you in your personal chest to give yourself a leg up. Just make sure it's swapped over before the fire goes out, or else it's gone for good. Feed the Giants is a hauntingly captivating game, framing yourself as a god and immediately making you question if you want this responsibility at all. It still feels early, and it lacks a release date at present, but they seemingly promise much more in the full release, and I could see potential for greater depth just in what was present in the game. Frankly, I'd be interested to see how this turns out when it grows up. Stunt Boost is a first-person skateboarding time attack platformer racer, I think that's a good way to put it, made by Biting Games. Despite the word salad of genres I described it as, it is a simple game. We complete a series of time trial obstacle courses laid out for us. We're piloting one of those little finger skateboards, so every single course is actually a tiny one, made out of Hot Wheels tracks and toys and boxes and other bedroom junk. One can only imagine that the kid laying out all of these incredibly elaborate challenge courses for themselves to solve is the single raddest kid on the planet. Anyway, the game is clearly inspired by the likes of Neon White, except in that game, you had legs, and had to walk around like a big dumb idiot. On a skateboard, you click, and then you're off. There's no need for any more button presses to maintain your momentum, and it's up to you to use your mouse to steer yourself precisely through these levels. You ollie your skateboard, naturally, to get over obstacles. You can't pull off any tricks while in the air, but that's okay, because the real focus of this game is speed. You find speed boosts lying around the track and can also hunch down in order to gain momentum when going down ramps, but make sure to release it before going up a ramp because that will cost you speed. The hunch mechanic can also be used in mid-air to end a jump early and get those wheels to the ground sooner, which is incredibly useful. How all of this works in the context of being a finger skateboard, I don't know. Obviously, the faster you go, the harder it might be to control, but the objective is to go fast. It's easy to pick up, but mastering the mechanics will take some effort. And the game also knows to throw out complications, such as doors that open when you look at these googly eyes. Your route is just as important as your speed. Sure, you can shave a few seconds by taking it tight around the corners, but sometimes it might be wise to think about outside the track if you want to really up your run. Each level is stacked with medals to earn. If you're the kind of gamer who wants to get the highest rating on a level before moving on, who enjoys speedrunning and beating the times and scores of everyone around you, including your previous self, then this game will be your jam, your cream, your whole damn scone. Are you gonna settle for a bronze medal? Of course not! Hit that gold medal you deserve, and oh wait, there are diamond medals as well? Time to redo all my times again! Oh boy, I sure hope there isn't a super secret medal that'll make me want to redo all of them after this. Your times are shared on an online leaderboard, so if you have friends, this could turn monstrously competitive. And of course, you can download the ghosts of other players so you can learn all kinds of techniques and routes, or be dumbstruck at what everyone else is doing while you fail miserably. Stunt Boost feels incredibly well realised, down even to the details in the giant bedroom, which you can freely explore if you get one of the hidden VHS tapes in a level. Even the music feels authentic and cool to listen to, with songs made just for the game. It's incredibly enjoyable and absolutely worth your time when the game pops off on July 22nd. Silver Pines is a 2D survival horror Metroidvania made by Witchelm and published by Team 17. In the game you play as a private detective who's come to a sleepy rural American town looking for a missing person. However, something scary waits in his way. Payphones. Just to get ahead of it, you might see some performance problems with this game, but this seemed to be an Nvidia problem. When not recording the game, everything was perfectly fine, without even the slightest hitch. Any hiccups you do see are the fault of Jensen Huang, personally. Right, the first thing that needs to be said about Silver Pines is that, man, it looks incredible. It makes terrific use of its environments, creating places that feel genuinely absorbing and lonely, but also surreal and hostile when it needs to. The detective we play as is also a 2D drawing, and the way their rotoscoped form travels through the world felt very satisfying to look at all times, helped by the impressive lighting reflecting off of his sprite. It's a simple trick, but I love seeing it. It creates a wonderful atmospheric buzz that practically plugs the game into my nervous system, helped along by the game's soundtrack being an appropriate mood setter, perfectly fitting the sultry, sinister vibes. And the voice acting being quite rich. One of the first conversations you have is with your client on the phone, and you can begin to understand what this game's about from just the tone of the two people talking.
Did you find him, detective? Did you find Eddie Velvet?
Eddie Velvet. I just got here. It's been a long drive.
The motel, Walker. You were going to the motel. The Crimson Bear.
Yeah. The motel.
You still have the files on Eddie in the trunk of your car.
Yeah. I still have them.
Oh yes. In case you didn't figure it out by the detective in a Midwest town, this game takes a lot from Twin Peaks and David Lynch in general. It's not just that, but while I won't be spoiling things here, there's also a lot of specifically Alan Wake in here as well. So it's Lynch and Lynch-inspired things that feeds this game. But not entirely. I mean, the story is about a missing person, but the person in question is a man, rather than a Lynchian woman in trouble. Truly, breaking new ground. You explore the town as you like, with several buildings to venture into and get eaten by a monster inside. A cool feature is a camera, allowing you to take photos and stick them on your map, like in that Prince of Persia game. I like that, especially as this game does have various kinds of locked doors that you might need different methods to get open. There's puzzles and inventory management and secrets to find that make this a pretty engaging survival horror game to get engrossed in. It also has combat, and So, The first weapon the game gives you is a box cutter, and the box cutter sucks. I found unless I could wind up a heavy attack and get enemies in a loop of box cutter baseball, then I wasn't going to be doing very well. The light attack might as well not exist. It doesn't come out as fast as I like, and it won't give you any breathing room. You can dodge enemies, and if you don't have to fight something, you should absolutely hop past them and save yourself the trouble of fighting and losing health. Dodging requires specific timing, however, that takes a bit to get used to, and that can be frustrating. Combined with a weapon that just feels bad to use, I honestly would not blame someone for just putting the game down here, because I didn't feel like I had many reliable ways for dealing with enemies. But then, I found a gun. And the gun is good. It deals with enemies reliably, and it was a relief to finally have one. You still have to aim in this 2D layout, and you can't move whilst doing so you don't feel overpowered. There's also a rounds-based active reload, so in the heat of the moment you're always engaged. You still want to save ammo when you can. This is a survival horror game, and there's also padlocks that can be broken only with a gunshot, and saving a bullet to do so is usually worth it. Suddenly at this moment, combat clicked for me. It merged together with the exploration gameplay well, and I felt happy. I needed to communicate my struggles with the box cutter first, but it gets better, I promise you. And it is still a fascinating game that I feel like I could go on talking about for even longer, but the story stuff inside, it tickles my fancy, and I think you should see it for yourself. I think it's performing the weird notes with a very sophisticated air, and I'm interested to see more. Silver Pines will finish brewing and be ready to serve on October 8th, 2026. WOIM is a 2D worm-based puzzle game made by Dogspawn. In the game, you're a worm, or a WOIM, if you will, and you have to navigate a series of levels using your long, slinky, slithery WOIM body. It sounds pretty straightforward, but the WOIM life ain't easy. For starters, as a WOIM, your body is long and you can't pass through it, so it's possible, easy even, for you to be blocked by your own WOIM butt when navigating tight passageways. It's kind of similar to Snake in that regard, except in Snake you die, and in this you don't, presumably because WOIMs don't have teeth. The game is very Sokoban, pressing buttons to open doors, holding them down with either rocks you push around, or just using your own WOIM body. Eat apples to make yourself longer and assert your earthly dominance. I don't know if these apples are small or if the WOIM is just really, really big, and I don't like thinking about it. WOIMs are fascinating creatures in their physiology though, as what happens when a WOIM is cut in half? You get 2 WOIMs. At least that was what I was told when I was a kid, and I'm not looking up WOIM facts just to verify this. In this game, at least, you do end up with 2 WOIMs, so it becomes prudent to tactically snip yourself in 2 to progress sometimes, either with doors closing on you or actively pushing a pair of scissors against your long WOIM body. You can even go headfirst into scissors, which will put your head where your butt was, allowing you to shimmy back out. It's more than slightly horrifying, especially for a game with such a otherwise cozy and wholesome aesthetic. But hey, maybe this is normal for WOIM culture. I'm new to walking the golden path. The aesthetic reminds me more than slightly of Baba Is You, especially with how wriggly the picture is and the simple but slightly hypnotic music. It's not quite as mind-bending as Baba, but it still creates a terrific sense of satisfaction from mastering your space and solving a puzzle. A lot of Sokoban games do that, but having to be a worm is a different sensation. You will feel like a tiny little idiot when presented with a puzzle you're just stuck on. WOIMs must be genius to do this every day. The game has a few tricks to spice things up, like balancing and transporting eggs. And as things progress, you have to think about your moves so carefully that it feels like you're programming steps you'll make in the future, as well as immediate actions. Hopefully the full release will keep up this creativity. WOIM is great. It doesn't have a release date, but if you'd love a puzzle game, even if it was a WOIM, then this might just be one for you to dig into. Also, is anyone else thinking of Sluggo from Nancy whenever I say this title? Mole. is a first-person adventure horror game made by Off Black Creations and published by Oro Interactive. The game sees us waking up on a rusty, half-broken vessel. I don't know if we have no memories of being a crew member, or if our protagonist just doesn't want to share them with us. Perhaps this is all less important than what we are riding on. The vessel in question is not a boat, or a submarine, or a starship, but a drill. A drill that is trying to dig to a mysterious signal deep underneath the Earth's crust. A signal that might be affecting our mind more and more as we get closer to it. Whether we do have our memories or not, it's up to us to figure out exactly what's happened aboard. The drill is quite the tangible little home for you and the other crew. I mean, less homely now, but basically every single nook and cranny feels lived in. There's details all over the environment that feel rich and informative, and paints a picture for the tumultuous time the crew found themselves in before we woke up. I also enjoy this appears to be a Soviet mission. It reminds me of the Kola Super Deep Borehole, a Russian experiment to see how far we could dig through the Earth. What's terrifying is, we're really deep in the game, but we can't hold a candle to the real-life hole. Mole isn't combat focused, or at least it isn't from what the demo showed off. Most of your time in the game is going to be focused around exploration and puzzle solving. We look around to find documents to elucidate us on what's going on, and then we improve the situation by performing maintenance. The puzzles are mostly related to the machinery in the ship, and we have to work out how to use it all. There's usually instructions somewhere. We need parts to do this or that. All of this feels very tactile. We are in a machine, seeing all the different parts work to their own logic, and it makes it feel immersive. Even the keys. We are in a cassette analog sci-fi drill. The keycard to access new rooms is a cassette tape, loaded with computerized information. My ID tape will open my bedroom door, but it won't open the door of my companions. Need to read and store emails? Well, we need a blank tape, and then we have to write the message to the tape via a recorder. All information is recorded to magnetic tape for future use. It's methodical, every interaction informative in its own way, and it puts us in the shoes of an engineer on this excursion wonderfully. But we are a specific engineer. Though we might not be up to date on what's happened aboard this drill, we have our own history, and it's not a happy one. Though we only get glimpses to the person we were and still are, it starts to become clear that others are aware of us as well. We might not be so alone down here. I just don't know if I have company inside or outside, or maybe even another place entirely. Parts of the game start to remind me quite strongly of Soma. That strange signal. Does it call for me in particular? What can it do for me? What can I do for it? All information is recorded to magnetic tape for future use. Mole is very interesting. It does everything it can to make you feel engaged with its setting, both in terms of gameplay and story, and sets up a lot of intriguing threads. Sadly, the demo for this game has already been taken down, but that's because you can play the full release right now. It's out. So go ahead and play it for yourself and see what you can unearth. About Fishing is a game about fishing, is a game about curly fries, is a game about a dead body, is a game about fishing. And it's made by the Water Museum and published by Playstack. The game is primarily about you controlling a young fisher lady. I don't recall if you even had a name in the demo. All I know is that from childhood to adulthood, all they want to do is fish. But this obviously isn't just a normal fishing game. I mean, look at it. The strange, foggy PS1-esque graphics, the disconcerting photo-textured character models, the somber, off-kilter music. This game is pretty upfront about being a strange vibe. And then you discover you can put the fish back on your line and you can control them? Make the caught fish swim back around in the water and explore secret places? The game seems to imply that rod, line, and hook is practically an extension of the character's self, and she is aware of what is happening in the water, hence us following the hook as we cast and reel in. So I guess this makes sense from a certain point of view, a point of view that might be into Twin Peaks, because we explore and find a dead body down below, wrapped in plastic. Huh, what's with the Lynch-inspired games lately? The whole game is fishing, and it's working to get you immersed in that. The game is controlled with the mouse and asks you to make movements with it like a rod. You can cast out in different ways, and it's up to you to get used to the rhythms and movements of doing so. Only by letting go at the perfect time will you manage to get into further and trickier to reach places. From there, it's the case of snagging a fish with the right timing once they're on your hook. You don't use bait in the game, or at least in the demo, which frankly doesn't put forward a great picture of the mental health of these fish. There's no reason to attach onto the hook, and yet they can't help themselves. Once you've conquered a fish, you put it in your tackle box and you can sell it at the store. In the store, you can buy upgrades to help you fish, longer lines, weights to reach the bottom feeders, that sort of thing. They are quite pricey though. That's why, if you get a knife, you can turn a fish into an investment. Filleting a fish first will allow you to sell its meat for more than if you just gave them the whole fish. With the only catch being, you have to remember these lines and cut along them to a satisfactory degree. Otherwise, you could mess up bad enough that you earn less than if you just sold the fish whole. There's also a water museum in the game, which I think you can donate your fish into, but times are tough and I had to focus on the pursuit of profit. I'm sure someone will come along to help. It's fine. So the game is all fishing all the time, but there's more to it. You can cast anywhere, even on land. So if there's a problem in the game, then you can throw out your line and see if you can resolve things that way. You can interact with the world in interesting ways with your hook, knocking things around and more. There's also physics attached to your line, so if you're trying to land a fish, getting it caught on the terrain around you can be a bit of a hazard to watch out for. But this is also used for problem solving, such as possessing a fish and wrapping the line around something in order to move it in the water. It goes quite in depth with its mechanics, and throughout my time with the demo, I was always surprised with what it was coming up with next. It is quite a slow burn and methodical game, almost meditative in its execution. The store page says it's taking inspiration from Shenmue, and I can see that. There is a real process of catching, preparing, and selling that it wants you to feel, and it's quite a compelling loop to find yourself in, helped by the wonderful environment work that makes the experience comfortable and weird. And boy, is it weird. The overarching plot has us trying to solve the mystery of the dead body we dragged up, and why our grandpa, who kind of looks like Clint Eastwood, acts so weird. It's compelling. I don't want to spoil what happens with just this demo, but if you're expecting this to be another Laura Palmer, that's not what the game is going for. And by the end, you might have a different take from this girl being wrapped in plastic. It knows when to lean into its strangeness, but also has a playful side. It is also aware of its own absurdity, rather than getting stuffy with its influences, and I like that. About Fishing is absolutely everything I could possibly want from a weird fishing game, and I've covered a few at this point. Its premise intrigues me, its atmosphere hooks me, and it reels me in with a deft execution of its ideas. About Fishing doesn't have a release date yet, but I will sit and wait until I feel a nibble on this, and any of the other demos featured here. Check them out for yourself. You might just be surprised. Thank you for watching. As I said, big video on the horizon. Currently trying to keep both it and myself from falling over, so please look forward to it at some point in the future. And a big thank you to everyone who supports me. You are the reason I can do this and work on big, strange, weird projects, and I am very grateful for that. Patrons get to ask questions in Q&A segments at the end of videos, which we'll get into right now. What part of the video making process takes the longest, or I put the most effort into? Editing for sure. I'm not the greatest or flashiest editor, but I'm always trying to emulate the experience of playing the game with my videos. I put a lot of time into my scripts, but sometimes what I write won't work when it comes to the edit, or for what I'm trying to elicit from my audience. And so I'll go back and try to make something that fits in better. The timeline is ultimately what rules me. If you watched any of the game showcases, what is the game you're most excited about? Well, I actually found out About Fishing had a demo from the PC gaming show. Anyway, my highlight was Final Fantasy VII Revelation. It remembered to bring gameplay, unlike the other remake announcements. It looks cool, and I have really enjoyed the remake games so far. I have to see where they take things from here. What's the first thing that attracts you to a Steam demo and makes you want to try it? Perhaps this isn't quite so specific, but there has to be a quirk. I have played so many games that it's very easy to look at something and think of a bunch of games I can compare it to. But if there's a quirk that sets it apart, whether it be in its gameplay, story, setting, visual style, or whatever, then that piques my interest and makes me want to know more. More or less every game I cover for Next Fest, this one and previous ones, has something unique about them that made me want to feature them. It might feel obvious, but the amount of time I've just been scrolling past games on Steam, which are just doing the hot new trend without anything to differentiate itself, maybe it isn't obvious after all. Okay, that's everything. I'm going back to the editing hole. Thanks once again, and I'll see you next time.